Hello everybody, this is Crafty, and welcome to the Lycanite Mobs Mod Showcase. This is part 1 of however many there will be, where I cover all the mobs that fall into the Elemental and Plant categories. There are 25 in total, so let's get straight to it. This is the Cinder. The Cinder has 10 points of health, 0 points of armor, and a base attack damage of... When killed, the Cinders can drop coal, blaze rods, ember charges, and cinder blade level 1, which is used when making special weaponry that will be covered in another video. When attacking the player, the cinder will fire ember charges at the player, setting them on fire. The cinders spawn from any fire burning in the world. Lastly, the cinder is in two variants: the Azure Cinder, which is uncommon, and the Verdant Cinder, which is rare. This is the Jengu. The Jengu has 15 points of health, an armor rating of 0, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Jengu has only one drop, and that would be this, the Aqua Pulse Charge. When the Jengu is attacking the player, it will fire Aqua Pulse charges at the player and attempt to hit the player, dealing the 2 melee damage, as well as administering the Mining Fatigue effect for 5 seconds. The Jengu spawn in bodies of water, most notably when it is dark. The Jengu has two variations, the Lex Jengu and the Keppel Jengu. This is the Geonok. The Geonok has a base health of 20, an armor value of 3, and a base attack damage of 2. The Geonok drops, listed from left to right, are the Geonok Spear, the Cleansing Crystal, Stone, Iron Ore, Nether Quartz, Gold Ore, and the Geonok Fist. There is a special variant of the Geonok called the Celestial Geonok that will be covered later in this segment. That one has special drops, which are multiple of the Cleansing Crystals, while normal Geonoks only drop 1, and diamonds. The Geonok's attack strategy is to move towards the player and hit the player with either of its arms, inflicting the weight effect upon the player, preventing the player from jumping. However, this effect can be negated if the player is also inflicted with the strength effect at the same time. The Geonoks spawn from ores being broken in caves, and can often be surprising to the player, as it was in that instance. The Geonok has 3 subspecies: the Keppel Geonok, the Golden Geonok, and the previously mentioned Celestial Geonok, which is noticeably larger than the other types of Geonok, and has a noticeably higher amount of health. This is the Djinn. The Djinn has a health of 10, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Djinn can drop Djinn Clouds, Chorus Fruit, Feathers, Snowballs, Cleansing Crystals, and Whirlwind Charges. The Djinn will attack the player by firing a Whirlwind Charge at the player, dealing 1 point of damage, and inflicting the Levitation debuff for 5 seconds. The Djinn spawn at high altitudes, above y equals 128. The Djinn has 2 subspecies, the Ashen Djinn and the Violet Djinn. This is the Aegis. The Aegis has 20 points of health, 3 points of armor, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Aegis can drop emeralds, nether quartz, gold nuggets, and cleansing crystals. The Aegis has 2 different combat styles. The first being a defensive mode, where the shields around it negate most of the damage, and the second is an offensive mode, triggered when it is attacked or provoked, where it will sprout out 4 swords that will circle it, rapidly dealing damage to the player and afflicting the weakness debuff. The Aegis spawn in places with a large amount of order, such as villages, and will defend the village from thieves. The Aegis has 2 subspecies, the Russet Aegis and the Dark Aegis. This is the Argus. The Argus has a health of 20, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 4. The Argus can drop an Argus Tail, Obsidian, Chaos Orb Charges, and Ender Pearls. The Aegis attacks the player by either firing Chaos Orb charges at the player, or, if the player is close enough, attacking it by biting the player. Any attack the Aegis deals will provide the instability effect, causing the player to jerk around randomly. So, the Aegis have a very unique spawn method. They only spawn when a high concentration of other elementals have been killed. And right there you can see the message has occurred, which means that one of them has spawned nearby. So let's go outside and see if we can find it. There it is. The Aegis has two subspecies, the Scarlet Aegis and the Dark Aegis. This is the Zophon. The Zophon has a health of 30, an armor point value of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Zophon can drop Slime Balls, Blaze Rods, Bones, Acid Splash Charges, and Zophon Spines. The Zophon will fire Acid Splash Charges at the player, inflicting the penetration effect, which increases all incoming damage. The Zophon can spawn from any interaction between water and lava, such as the formation of obsidian. The Zophon can also spawn when a Cinder and a Jengu get close enough to mix, forming a much larger version of the Zophon with even more health. The Zophon has two subspecies, the Golden Zophon and the Scarlet Zophon. This is the Vulcan. The Vulcan has a health 30, a defense of 2, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Vulcan drops coal, blaze rods, stone, iron ore, nether quartz, gold ore, and ember charges. The Vulcan will melee attack the player, inflicting the smoldering effect and dealing 2 melee damage. The smoldering effect forces the player to be on fire even after they get in and leave the water. The Vulcan also has Heat Aura, which will set you on fire as long as you are within 4 blocks of the Vulcan. The Vulcan has 3 ways that it can spawn. The first is in pools of lava. The second way for a Vulcan to spawn is if a Geonok is contacted with lava. The third way that a Vulcan can spawn is if a Geonok and a Cinder get close enough together, where they form a much larger version of the Vulcan. The Vulcan has 2 variants, the Azure Vulcan and the Verdant Vulcan. This is the Zephyr. The Zephyr has a health of 15, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Zephyr can drop Gunpowder, Glowstone, and Zephyr Blades. In combat, the Zephyr will fire electric bolts at the player, and on the melee attack, inflict the paralysis effect, preventing the player from moving. Zephyrs spawn at high altitudes during thunderstorms. Zephyrs can also spawn when a Cinder and a Djinn mix together. The Zephyr has 2 variants, the Golden Zephyr and the Keppel Zephyr. This is the Wisp. The Wisp has a health of 25, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 4. The Wisp can drop gold nuggets, glowstone dust, and light ball charges. The Wisp is a neutral mob, however when provoked it will fire light ball charges at the player. Wisps spawn in any area of the world that has direct sunlight. The second way to form a Wisp is to have an Aegis and Cinder Elemental be close together. The Wisps have 2 variants, the Azure Wisp and the Violet Wisp. This is the Groo. The Groo has a health of 15, a defense of 1, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Groo can drop Obsidian, Ender Pearls, and Groo Claw level 1. The Lunar Groo, which is a special variant, can also drop the Undead Soulstone. In combat, the Groo will move up to the player and administer the blindness effect. The Groo will also occasionally teleport behind the player. The Groo can spawn deep underground in large dark caves, or it can spawn as an elemental fusion with a Cinder and an Aegis. The Groo has 3 variants, the Scarlet Groo, the Verdant Groo, and the Lunar Groo, which counts as a mini-boss similar to the Lunar Geonok. Okay guys, so you guys are about the halfway point through the video. This is just a quick reminder to, get up, get some water, stretch, anything like that. This will also be a good time for me to mention that I am planning on live streaming at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time on Wednesday the 10th. So, I will be playing Minecraft Dungeons. I recently got the game and decided to wait to actually play it until I can live stream it for you guys. So that way, we can experience the game together. Anyways, back to the video. This is a Spriggan. The Spriggan has a health of 15, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Spriggan can drop wheat seeds, melon seeds, sticks, charcoal when killed with fire, pumpkin seeds, Spriggan hearts, immunizer, vines, life drain charges, and Spriggan roots. During combat, the Spriggan will fire life-draining charges at the player, applying the poison effect while healing itself. Spriggans spawn in wooded areas or when trees are being cut down. They can also form when a Jengu and a Djinn merge together. The Spriggans have two variants, the Golden Spriggan and the Scarlet Spriggan. This is the Rever. The Rever has a health of 15, a defense of 1, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Rever can drop a cleansing crystal, snowballs, ice, frostbolt charges, or Rever horns. The Rever will fire frostbolt charges at the player, applying the slowness effect. Reavers spawn in cold environments or from frostfire. Reavers can also form when a Jengu and a Djinn become in close proximity. The Rever has two variations, the Ashen Rever and the Golden Rever. This is the Nymph. The Nymph has a health of 15, an armor of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Nymph can drop Immunizer, Faybolt charges, wheat seeds, pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, and a wide variety of flowers. The Nymph is a neutral mob, providing the player with the regeneration effect until provoked. Once provoked, they will fire Faybolt charges at the player, which will inflict the bleeding effect. Nymphs can spawn in any area with a large amount of flowers that is in direct sunlight. Nymphs can also form when an Aegis and a Jengu fuse. The Nymph has two variants, the Golden Nymph and the Dark Nymph. This is the Echetect. The Echetect has a health of 15, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Echetect can drop slime balls, red mushrooms, brown mushrooms, poison glands, and Echetect arms. In combat, the Echetect will attempt to hit the player, dealing both the plague and poison effects. The plague is just a contagious poison effect that can be spread to other mobs nearby. The Echetect can spawn in dark areas with large amounts of mushrooms. Echetect can also form when a Jengu and Aegis fuse. The Echetect has two variants, the Dark Echetect and the Keppel Echetect. This is the Banshee. The Banshee has a health of 25, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Banshee can drop Soul Sand, Ender Pearls, Eyes of Ender, and Banshee Eyes. During combat, the Banshee will move up and attack the player, giving them the Fear effect, which causes the player to move uncontrollably. The Banshee can spawn in places associated with fear, such as in abandoned mineshafts. Banshee can also form when a Djinn and a Djinn fuse. The Banshee has two variants, the Scarlet Banshee and the Keppel Banshee. This is the Vapula. The Vapula has a health of 30, a defense of 3, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Vapula can drop emeralds, nether quartz, stone, lapis, diamonds, crystal shard charges, Vapula crystals, and cleansing crystals. In combat, the Vapula will fire crystal shard charges at the player, inflicting the aphasia effect, which prevents you from eating or using any food items. Vapula can spawn when any type of crystal ore is broken, such as emeralds or diamonds. Vapula can also spawn when an Aegis and a Djinn fuse. The Vapula have two variants, the Verdant Vapula and the Golden Vapula. This is a Tremor. The Tremor has a health of 20, a defense of 1, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Tremor can drop blaze powder, gunpowder, blaze rods, and firework charges. The Tremor will fire small explosive charges at the player, not destroying any blocks, but sending the player flying and inflicting the hunger effect. The Tremor can spawn from any kind of explosion or mass detonation within the world. Tremors can also form when a Djinn and an Aegis fuse. The Tremor has two variants, the Russet Tremor and the Verdant Tremor. This is a Sylph. The Sylph has a health of 40, a defense of 1, and a melee attack damage of 1. The Sylph can drop Gold Nuggets, Glowstone Dust, Aether Wave Charges, Cleansing Crystals, and Sylph Wings. In combat, the Sylph will send out Aether Wave Charges, which will afflict the player with the Smited effect, causing them to burn in direct sunlight. Sylphs spawn in and around locations that can be considered holy, such as desert temples. Sylph can also spawn when a Aegis and a Djinn fuse. The Sylph has two variants, the Verdant Sylph and the Golden Sylph. This is the Wraith. The Wraith has a health of 5, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 4. The Wraith can drop Blaze Powder, Gunpowder, Bones, and Wraith Skulls. In combat, the Wraith will go up to the player and hit the player, inflicting the Wither effect. Also, upon death, the Wraiths release a small explosion. Wraiths can spawn in the skies of the Nether, or can form when an Aegis and a Djinn fuse. The Wraith has two variants, the Verdant Wraith and the Azure Wraith. This is the Spectre. The Spectre has a health of 30, a defense of 0, and a melee attack damage of 3. The Spectre can drop Obsidian, Ender Pearls, Chorus Fruit, Eyes of Ender, Spectre Bolt Charges, and Spectre Tendrils. In combat, the Spectre will pull the player in and inflict the player with a decay effect, preventing them from healing through natural regeneration. Spectres can spawn in the end, or can form when an Aegis and an Aegis fuse. The Spectre has two variants, the Azure Spectre and the Lux Spectre. This is the Ent. The Ent has a health of 15, a defense of 2, and a melee attack damage of 3. The Ent can drop sticks, wheat seeds, pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, wooden logs, apples, charcoal if killed with fire, and immunizers. In combat, the Ent will approach the player and perform a melee attack. The Ent also has a chance to perform a poison attack, and can regenerate health in water and will drain health from the player. They are also weak against axes and fire. Ents can spawn when trees are chopped down in the world. The Ent has two variants, the Russet Ent and the Scarlet Ent. This is the Treant. The Treant has a health of 120, a defense of 3, and a melee attack damage of 4. The Treant can drop logs, sticks, wheat seeds, pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, apples, emeralds, and immunizers. In combat, the Treant will attack the player, inflicting the poison effect. They will also have a small chance to paralyze the player, and, like the Ent, can regenerate health from water and take additional damage from axes. Treants can spawn in very densely packed forests, or when large portions of the forest are destroyed. The Treant has two variants, the Russet Treant and the Ashen Treant. This is the Shambler. The Shambler has a health of 30, a defense of 3, and a melee attack damage of 2. The Shambler can drop logs, sticks, wheat, pumpkin, and melon seeds, charcoal if killed with fire, apples, and immunizer. In combat, the Shambler will move up to the player and attack the player, inflicting them with the poison effect. They also have a small chance to paralyze the player and can regenerate health from any source of water. The Shambler, however, can also be tamed if you use the plant treat. Once it is tamed, this dialogue will pop up, which will be covered in another video. Shamblers can spawn in dense forests and jungles. The Shambler has two variants, the Dark Shambler and the Keppel Shambler. This is the Triffid. The Triffid has a health of 40, a defense of 4, and a melee attack damage of 6. The Triffid can drop red mushrooms, brown mushrooms, wheat, pumpkin, and melon seeds, logs, and immunizer. Triffids will commonly spawn in swamps. The Triffid has two variants, the Azure Triffid and the Violet Triffid. Okay guys, so it seems we've approached the end of the video. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching all the way through, and make sure you subscribe so that way you can watch all of the rest of the parts of this mod showcase that I will be putting out in the coming weeks. Don't forget to tune into my live stream at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday the 10th, and I will see you guys in the next video.